Hi. So now we'll see the concepts of distance, midpoint, and slope. One of the important concepts of the exam. So, but before we start to understand how to find distance or midpoint or slope, the first thing you should know is quadrant. So this is a given XY plane. In any given XY plane, we know that this is origin, this is x-axis, and this is y-axis, and negative x or x bar, negative y or y dash basically. Now, if I have to draw any point, let's say if I have to, the point is defined or designated like this, right? X comma y. So this point, if I have to name, what is the x coordinate? X coordinate is 4 and the corresponding y coordinate is 2. So this is called, here we can see that both x and y's are positive. This is called first quadrant. In anti-clockwise we go. Most of you would already be knowing this. Second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. Okay. So let's say if you want to have this point. So what is the x? To find the x value, look at the x-axis. X-axis, the corresponding is -4. Y, the corresponding is 6. So y above x-axis is always positive, below x-axis is negative. X values to the right of y-axis is positive and to the left of x-axis is always negative. So first quadrant plus plus, second quadrant minus plus, third quadrant both are negatives as we can see, and fourth, because it's to the right, x is positive, because it is below x-axis, y is negative. So this is how you'll need to know what is the quadrant and which quadrant the point is there and what are the signs of each quadrant. Now, if a point AB lies in first quadrant, in which quadrants do the following points lie? Okay. So one simple way is I can just take A comma B as anything 4 comma 2 because it's in the first quadrant. So A is positive and B is positive. Now what I'll do is I'll find out what is going to be A plus 2 and B plus 4, because A is 4 and B is 2. So the point A plus 2 B plus 4 will become 6 comma 6, which is in the first quadrant only. Now similarly, let's see what is negative B and negative A. B is 2, so negative B is -2 and negative A is -4. So both are negative, they will be in third quadrant for sure. First quadrant both positive, third quadrant both negative. Okay, a simple substitution will get us the answer. Now the formulas of distance and midpoint of 2 points, any points on the xy plane. Let's say point P is x1 y1, point Q is x2 y2. The distance formula is square root of x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square. So make a note of this. So distance is denoted by d and midpoint is the average of both coordinates x1, x2 and y1, y2. So most of you would be knowing this already. And slope is denoted by small m of 2 points is difference in y coordinates upon difference in x coordinate, which is difference, or you can say change in y upon change in x coordinates. So remember, to find slope or midpoint or distance, you should always be having 2 points. Without 2 points, you can never find any of these three quantities. So you can pause the video and try this question. The first one is distance, midpoint, slope. 5, negative 3 and 1, 7. So I can take any point as x1, y1 and x2, y2. I can interchange, I'll still get the same answer. What's the distance formula? Square root under x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square, which is x2 is 1 and x1 is 5. Y2 is 7 and y1 is negative 3. So 1 minus 5 is negative 4, and here we'll need to always calculate the parentheses inside ones first. Negative of negative is positive. So this becomes 7 plus 3 whole square, right, which is 10 square. So if I calculate, I get negative 4 whole square is always positive. Negative 4 into negative 4 is positive 16. Plus 100, so 116. Can further simplify this. We have discussed this in exponents and roots. So 116, if you factorize, you get something like this. The square root of a into b is square root of a into square root of b. Because I know 4 is a perfect square, I have written in multiples of 4. The second one is the midpoint. x1 plus x2 upon 2, y1 plus y2 upon 2. Midpoint is the average. What is x1 here? 1 and x2 is 5. y1 is negative 3 and y2 is 7. So I get 6 upon 2 and 4 upon 2. This is the midpoint. Now the slope is change in y upon change in x. Remember, you cannot write y2 minus y1 upon x1 minus x2. The numbers have to be in the same order. Now what is y2 minus y1? We have seen y2 minus y1 is 7 plus 3 and x2 minus x1 is negative 4. Right? 10 upon negative 4, which is 2 and 5. 5 upon negative 2 or negative 5 upon 2. This is the slope. So the same way you can calculate for the other ones. So the answers that you should get is so you can add this, you should get something like this. I might be wrong, I'm just calculating it fast. This has to be 5 and 5 upon 2. And slope is negative 17 upon negative 14, which is 17 upon 40. Okay, this you can try and check. Okay. All of these are very, very important, basic but very important. Slope of a line parallel to x-axis, which is a horizontal line. Because we know x-axis is horizontal and y-axis is vertical. Now, before going to solve this, now tell me, if I take 2 points on a horizontal line, think about this, which values will be constant? The x values will be constant or the y values will be constant on a horizontal line? Okay, you can pause and think about it. Now, so I've taken 2 points on this vertical line, which is passing through 6. So the coordinates are going to be x2, y6 and x4, y6. So what is happening here? On a horizontal line, the y values are constant. So if I take any 2 points, let's say x1, y1 and x2, y2. So here x2 is greater than x1, but y2 is equal to y1, right? So if I find out y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1, what I get on the numerator is 0 and some constant. Okay. So 0 upon any constant is 0. So this is very important. Slope of a line parallel to x-axis is 0, or a horizontal line. Why? Because the y doesn't change. In horizontal line, y is constant. Similarly, slope of a line parallel to y-axis, right? Now you can take any 2 points on a vertical line. Parallel to y-axis is vertical line. You can pause the video and see which one is constant, x or y in this case. So if I have to take the coordinates of this, x is -2 and y is 2. X is -2, y is 4. So up and down, right? As you move up and down, y changes, but x doesn't change. So if I take any 2 points, x1, y1 and x2, y2, what's happening here? That y2 is greater than y1 for sure, right? Because it's above. But x2 is equal to x1. X doesn't change. So what happens? This is some constant upon x2 is equal to x1. So this is going to be 0. So anything upon 0 is not defined. So slope of a vertical line or a line parallel to y-axis is not defined. This is absolutely important. Horizontal line 0, vertical line not defined, or infinite they call it sometimes. So I hope the concepts are clear. Quadrants, distance, midpoint, slope, slope of horizontal line and slope of vertical line. There will be a lot of concepts to cover. So make sure you write all of this pretty neat. The next one is ascending and descending lines. So ascending line will look something like this. It moves up. As you go to the right, it moves up. And for an ascending line, the slope is positive. We'll say why the slope is positive. Now descending line, as you move to the right, the descending line will go down. Okay, descending, as the word suggests, will go down. So the slope of a descending line is negative. Now what is a line which neither ascends nor descends? It goes straight. It neither goes up nor goes down, which is horizontal line. And what is the slope of horizontal line? Is always 0. Okay, so how do we know that the line is ascending or not? So take any point, okay? Let's say x1, y1. And you increase x. How do you increase x? You move to the right. X increases from left to right. Now, as you increase x, check whether the y points are increasing or decreasing. You'll see that y points are increasing. So let's say if this is x2, y2. This is a bit technical, but it will help you remember the concepts. Now, we know the slope is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. Now, is this clear that over here y2 is greater than y1 because y2 is above, and x2 is also greater than x1? So that means it's a positive value upon positive value. Positive upon positive is always positive, greater than 0. Okay, technically you can say this, or take a point, move to the right and see if the y points are going up or increasing, it is ascending line. Same happens to descending line. Take any point, x1, y1. And from there go right and see what's happening to the y values. As x is increasing, the y is decreasing. Okay. So as x is increasing, y is decreasing. So it becomes descending line and slope is 0. So over here we can see that y2 is below y1, right? So y2 is less than y1. So y2 minus y1 is less than 0. But here x2 is greater than x1, right? Because x2 is the right of x1. So x2 minus x1 is positive. So what happens to slope? In technical terms, y2 minus y1 is a negative value and x2 minus x1 is a positive value. Negative upon positive is always negative. Okay, so that is the concept of ascending and descending lines. Then comes parallel lines. What are parallel lines? Parallel lines are the lines which will never intersect, which can never intersect. It's like two rail tracks. They travel parallel, right? So for the two lines, let's say L1 and L2 to be parallel with slopes and M1 and M2, the slopes are always equal. Okay, the slopes are always equal. The next one is perpendicular lines. These are conditions that you will need to remember. If two are perpendicular to each other, that means the angle between them is 90 degrees. Okay, the condition is M1 into M2 is equal to -1, or M2 is negative reciprocal of slope 1. Okay, because this is taught in some boards, negative reciprocal of slope 1. Okay, slope 2 is negative reciprocal of slope 1, or the product is -1. From there you can find out. Okay, we'll solve some questions. Enough of the theory. Find the slope of the line not shown, which is parallel to the given line. So remember, I told you distance, midpoint and slope. You'll need to have 2 points without which you cannot find them. So this is, as you can see, it's moving or it's passing through the origin. Okay, so they have given it deliberately. So when one point is given, there is definitely some hidden point where you can get, by looking at the figure or with some conditions. So we have 2 points, x1 y1 and x2 y2. So parallel, let's say this slope is m1 and the not shown one is m2. We know that m2 is equal to m1 or m1 equal to m2. For parallel lines, the slope is same. So let's find slope of line 1 or the given line. y2 is 0, y1 is 4, x2 is 0, x1 is -6. -4 upon minus into minus plus. This cancels in 2 table. So m2 is equal to -2/3. You can see this is descending line, right? This is descending line, so the slope has to be negative. You can find out. Just by looking, you know that the slope has to be negative, descending line. Okay, the same line and the same points. Let's say the line is perpendicular. If this is slope 1, we have found out the slope of m1 is -2/3, which is not shown. Let's say that is m2. What is the condition for perpendicular lines? m1 multiplied by m2 is -1. So I substitute. So 3 will go to the other side and gets multiplied, and you divide by 2 to get the slope of the perpendicular line. As you can see, perpendicular line will be somewhat like this, which is ascending line, or the slope has to be positive. So I hope the concepts are clear, and this is about distance, midpoint and slope. I'll see you in the next session. We'll solve equation of line and other coordinate geometry concepts. Okay, thank you.